Morning guys, welcome back to the channel. Today we are going to address the elephant in the room, which is my physical TBR. I have 56 physical books that I have yet to read, and I kind of don't want to buy anymore until I've read a lot of them. I say this, but then Waterstones do some beautiful exclusives and then I have to pre-order things. I currently have 2 things on pre-order right now. And we all know that there's the special editions of like One Dark Window coming out. Phantasma's got a special edition coming closer to Christmas. To say that I'm not going to buy any more physical books is just ridiculous. I have a lot of series within that TBR. So for example, I've read the first of the Hades Persephone series, but I've got all of the other ones to read, including the Hades POVs, which slot in. I've got all of Chestnut Springs to read. I've got the Twisted Games series, or the Twisted series. I have got all of the Grishaverse, apart from Shadow and Bone. I've got a lot of series that I need to read, so I can't just like randomly read a load of books without reading part of that series. So what I've done is, rather than putting every single book into a little TBR jar, I've put it into the series. I'm going to try and do TBR jar every week, and that's going to help me get through some of my books. If I pull out something from a series, I'll put it back in for the week after, with the idea that I'll always start on the next in the series, because otherwise I could be pulling out like King of Scars, and I've literally just read Shadow and Bone, and that's a few books down the line, and I'm going to need to read a few more before I get there. So let's get started. Some are attached to the top. I very stupidly used some of the sticky part of post-its. It was ridiculous. Okay, so the first physical book this week I'm going to read is, speak of the Grishaverse, it's the Grishaverse. So as I said, I've read Shadow and Bone, so I have got Siege and Storm to start reading. I'm on page 3, so you know I've got far through this book. With my smut and sip hockey romance bookmark. Siege and Storm is the book that I'm going to start this week. It's one of the shorter books, so I find these quite easy to get through. This is 386 pages, so I think this is one of the bigger ones out of the set, but I do have the matching set. Wish me luck. Good morning. So I didn't record last night, but I have read about 160 pages of Siege and Storm. It's moving quite quick. I thought this one was just going to be about the next amplifier, and I thought that would be like the main thing that was covered. However, they've already got the amplifier, so I'm curious to see where it's going. She started to hallucinate the Darkling, which is interesting. It looks like there's some tension with her and Mal around her increasing power, so that's obviously going to come up a bit later on with the problem. And we've met Nikolai finally, and I know Nikolai's in King of Scars, that duology, so excited to see where this goes. So this is day 3 of trying to read this book. I'm under some very unflattering light right now, so I have got about 130 pages to go. This week using my TBR jar is not going very well. We're on Wednesday already and I'm only still on one book. Okay, let's try and get this read this morning. I'm going to read a little bit before work starts. Hopefully I can get most of it done, and then I can hopefully finish the rest of it at lunchtime, and then we can draw another book, hopefully. So I've now finished Siege and Storm. So it's the second book of the Shadow and Bone trilogy. It's a longer book than the first one, and I felt like the first one had a lot more action in it. I felt like you had quite a lot of action at the beginning and action at the end, but the middle was mainly like the politics. So you had about 3 acts in this. Shadow and Bone ends with them escaping from the Darkling and being on board a ship. So that's where this book begins. It begins with them finding a new life, trying to settle down and stay under the radar from the Darkling. Unfortunately, that's not how it goes. They are found, they are captured, then there's the escape. So that's kind of like the first act. Their lives, getting captured, escaping while they try and track down the second amplifier. The second act is really around her journey back to the little palace and like the politics. You get to see a lot more development with the relationship between Alina and Nikolai. You get to see the deteriorating relationship between Alina and Mal. He feels out of place, doesn't feel at home where they are. And then the third act is that preparation for the Darkling attack, which culminates in the ending. It was okay. It felt like a little bit more of a slog than the first one. It is significantly longer. It's like 386 pages-ish, but we finished a book, so that's good. So now let's go back to the TBR jar and draw what the next book's going to be. Oh god. Okay, so we've got Filthy Rich Fae. I've been kind of putting off reading this one, so it'll be quite interesting. I got this book from the Works because it was like £3-4 at the Works, and they do really good reduced books. It's the title, I think, just puts me off a little bit. So the blurb says, Kate Holloway knows the unspoken rule of New Orleans: avoid the powerful Gage crime family at all costs. Of course, that was before her brother got caught in the chaos. Now Kate has no choice but to confront the dark and forbidding Prince of New Orleans himself and beg for her brother's life. But Lachlan Gage is as lethal as he is beautiful. And the only currency he's interested in is her soul, because Lachlan isn't just some ruthless criminal, he's Fae, and he has his own secret reasons for binding her to him. Tricked and desperate, Kate is torn between humanity and the breathtaking otherworld. A place filled with shadows and secrets, with members of each Fae court plotting against her, just as her captor's motives for trapping her becomes more mysterious. And if she can't break this sinister bargain in the next 30 days, she'll be bound to the inscrutable yet infuriating tempting Fae Prince and his deadly world forever. Okay, so Lachlan's sister has just got married. She's got their hand fasting, and there's just been a load of exposition around the rope and mating bonds. Foreshadowing, maybe? Is that what this is? I feel like that's what this is going to be, right? They say that by doing the hand fasting, they come out with tattoos, and the mating bond's supposed to be established, and they have a year and a day for it to settle in, unless there's other reasons. I feel like this is what's going to happen. We've got 60 pages. I hate cliffhangers right at the end of books. I'm going to be so mad. Lucky the book's only like £5 on Amazon, so I could possibly buy that and get it delivered tomorrow if I really need to know what happens. So they've just found out that the clover, which is the drug that Lachlan produces. So clover is a street drug. It's supposed to be something that just gets you high and nicely, but from the very beginning, Kate has seen that there's more overdoses, there's more deaths coming from this clover production. They found out that it was tainted after she saved somebody in one of the nightclubs on the run up to the wedding. And therefore, Lachlan pulled back every supply. They've been analysing it in secret to find out what was making this taint. Was the magic something that could be reversed? And they've just realised it's in the Infernal Court. So that's Bane, who Sierra or Kiara, however you want to pronounce it, was about to marry. So they've just called everybody together. I'm on page 318. I've got like 30 pages to go. What is going to happen? Somebody going to get shot? Somebody going to get shot? Delve to the bottom. The Twisted series. Okay, which means we're starting with Twisted Love. I'm 90 pages in. This book is the dumbest book I've ever read. Okay, so we have Ava and we have Alex. Alex is Ava's older brother's best friend. Alex obviously has got some issues pertaining to his childhood. Ava also has some issues pertaining to her childhood. Josh, her brother, is going away for a year, so he asks Alex to look after her. Alex moves in next door to her because that's what he does. So he's like done some controlling things in the name of looking after her. But then her and her friends have come up with this Operation Emotion thing, and it's just so dumb. And I don't even think it's like a good dumb. You know what? I can watch Sharknado and appreciate the plot, but this is just dumb. Don't forget me started on the fact that one of her friends is almost like Mia from the Princess Diaries, which I know is going to be the next book. I point there because I have all the books just the other side. So she's trying to get, there's a running joke that Alex is like an emotionless robot. So they're trying to get him to show his emotions because he's shown a form of emotion around her in the past. So they put down a load of emotions and then they're tackling them one by one. So they tried to get him to be sad. So she took around like Marley and Me and A Walk to Remember, and he didn't cry. She's then taken over some really disgusting cookies, which has got like garlic and broccoli and asparagus and things in, and he's not been disgusted and just been like, yeah, they're fine, and walked away. Why? I mean, she accidentally fell asleep after the films. Well, she accidentally fell asleep during the last film and ended up sleeping in the same bed as him. The first night he'd picked her up on behalf of her brother, because it was his going away party, and she'd been stood in the rain, so her t-shirt had gone completely transparent. So there's like some charged air between them. But Operation Emotion. These are supposed to be grown adults, I think. I mean, it's not actually said how old she is, but one of them is a princess. I don't know. I literally have been reading this downstairs and I just sat up and turned to my husband and went, this is dumb. This plot is dumb. But I'm 90 pages in now, so I've got to keep going, right? There are 343 pages in this book. I'm 90 in, so you've got to keep going, right? You've got to keep trucking. I've got the other books. I bought the set from the works because it was like 12 quid for 4 books. So I've got the set. It's like I'm a glutton for punishment because I'm going to have to read them all. I didn't press record. So I finally finished this. I've literally just drawn a ticket because I thought I was pressed record and I hadn't, so I'm useless. So I know what book I'm reading next anyway. I'm not going to ruin the ending for anybody. It felt like a bit of a gallop at the end. And I'm not going to lie, there's a certain way that, like, it always feels like you're clapping in between every word. And that started to get a bit tiring after a while. I get it's written in the first person, but oof, I don't really know how I feel about it. I'll come back when I've had a chance to think about it when I finish the end of my week, and we'll discuss, and I'll give you a star rating. I have enough time to read one more book. So I pulled The Devils, and it is not a small book. It is, how many pages? Oh, too many pages. 561 pages. So this is the Waterstones exclusive, and it's also the one that's signed. And it's got the different front to it because this one has got the red. It took a while for me to track this one down. This one I have been actually wanting to read for quite a while. It's the size that's been putting me off. So I have a couple of days left of the week. So I guess The Devils, I'm hoping I get it finished by the end of the week, but this is going to take a lot of effort. I'm going to have to try and read a couple of 100 pages today and then a couple of 100 pages tomorrow, and then I should have it done for the end of the week. I was hoping I'd get like a 200 pager. I was hoping for like one of the Dane Dreth's books because they're quite small. But the TBR jar saw fit to give me The Devils. Okay, so I'm about 160 pages into The Devils right now. I don't know if I'm just not in the mood or what, but I'm struggling a little bit with reading it. I don't know. Like I said, I don't know if it's just that I'm not quite in the mood to read it or what, but I'm finding it a little bit of a slog. I've been reading it for quite a few hours and I'm a fast reader, so I've only read 160 pages in probably about 4 hours, which is a little bit strange for me. So I want to get to about the 250 mark this evening. It's like 560 pages long. So I kind of want to get a good bulk of the way through it so that I can try and finish it off tomorrow. It's not that I don't enjoy it. I like the characters. It's got a little bit of humour to it. I don't know. I genuinely don't know why it's taken me so long to read it. Like, I think I just might be in a grumpy mood. Maybe it's just me being in a grumpy mood. That's entirely possible. So yeah, I'm gonna keep on reading for some more tonight, and then hopefully when I pick it up tomorrow, I won't maybe be so grumpy about it, and it won't feel like such a slog. I don't know why it is. Like, the writing isn't hard to read. There's nothing, like, the plot's moving along at a nice pace. The characters, there's so many of them, but the characters are quite interesting. It's told in third person, but each chapter focuses on one of the characters, so it's third person from a point of view, and that moves along. So I don't know what it is. I genuinely don't know what it is. There's lots of action. That I think it might just be that I might not have been in the mood to read it. But this is why the jar TBR is always good. It forces you to read the books that you may put off and put off and put off. It's just a shame because, it is a good book. I just have the wrong attitude, apparently. First book. Siege and Storm. So it's the second book in the Shadow and Bone trilogy, second book in the Grishaverse. It was okay. I felt like this took me far too long to read. Like, reflecting upon the book now, it was okay. I get that this book needed to go a little bit more into politics, but that middle part of the book really seemed to drag. I didn't feel like I got into the story quite as much. My suspension of belief was difficult for this one. I know a lot of people say that these are Leigh Bardugo's weakest books because they're like the first things that she wrote, and obviously she's got better. So we'll be a little bit forgiving. But this one, I'll probably give it like 3 stars out of 5. It was an okay book. The next book then that the TBR jar gave me was Filthy Rich Fae. Now this is one that I've had for quite a while. I got it from the Works haul quite a long time ago, and I've kind of put off reading it. I feel like I put it off because the trend at the moment is all about Fae, and I'm not that fussed. I've got the ACOTAR, and they're behind me down here. I've got ACOTAR, I've got Throne of Glass, I've got one of the Crescent City books. I have read all of them, and I know that started this big resurgence of like Fae, but I'm not that fussed for them. This very much is like a shadow daddy. I actually quite enjoyed it. Saying all that, I actually quite enjoyed it. Like, Lachlan is he is a shadow daddy in this one, and I know that's another big trend. I quite enjoyed the relationship. I enjoyed the evolution of it. I know that this technically is a lesson in Stockholm Syndrome, but I did enjoy it so much that I ordered the second part, so because I needed to know how it ended. It ends on a bit of a cliffhanger. You know what? I needed to know what happened. So I haven't read the second book yet, but I actually enjoyed it. I'll probably give it like 3.5. It wasn't a difficult read. I think you'll see from my last book as well that I had a bit of a tough week with reading. I found it particularly difficult to get into books. Normally I have no problem with the immersion. I can get completely into the world. Give me about 30 pages and I will be fully in. But I struggled this week with 2 of the books. One of them being Storm and Siege. No, the other way around. I always say it wrong. Siege and Storm. And the other one being the last book that I read, which I haven't finished yet, but because I ran out of time. But I'm not far off. But this one, I actually quite got into it. It was an enjoyable read. It's 356 pages, so it's not too taxing. But yeah, I just generally enjoyed it. 3.5. Then we moved on to Twisted Love. So this is the first one in the Twisted series. These are supposed to be dark romance. Now, I read dark romance, and this is not it. This is dark romance light. I get it because there's the violence side of it. He just kills people that are in his way, and it's got a little bit of like the organised crime element, which usually is like that dark romance side. And he's a little bit rougher in the bedroom, which again is usually a dark romance thing, but this is dark romance light. If you need an introduction to dark romance, these are the series that will ease you in without making you go, what did I just read? I should have probably checked the trigger warnings. Again, this one was quite a nice, easy read. If you look at my previous footage that we've already gone through, like, I did have to stop at one point and be like, this is the dumbest thing I've ever heard when it got to the Operation Emotion crap. It very much demonstrated Ava is quite young in this. She reads young. The end it got to a point where I was like, oh, this should be the end. But then it kept going for like another 70 pages and drew it out into like an extra year on top before they had the third act breakup, and then they get together almost like a year later. It felt a bit unnecessary. It felt like you could have maybe wrapped that in an epilogue or something. I don't know, but so that I found that the end of the book kind of ruined the rest of it, because you got to the epic conclusion. You had two like big twists, you had two epic conclusions, and then it just dragged on. So I got a bit fed up with that. This is probably another 3-starer. It was all right. It was an enjoyable read. It wasn't anything outstanding. Now, finally, we come to the Devils. So I have about, I don't know, 160... No, how many pages do I have? I have just under 200 pages to go on this book. It is nearly a 600-pager. As you can see from like my vlogging portion, I don't know if I was just reading this being in a grumpy mood or what, but I just found it a little bit of a slog, which is really disappointing because I was really looking forward to reading this. And I don't know if I was just reading it when I wasn't ready to read it. You know, sometimes you have to be ready to read books, and sometimes they're better if you read them when you're like, do you know what? That book, I'm finally going to get to that book. And it's like a lot more enjoyable. But I found, again, as I've just said, my immersion is normally pretty good, and I struggle with this one. My mind just wanders. It doesn't seem to hold me, which is really, really disappointing, because the premise of it is really interesting. I like the idea of it's like a group adventure, you know, and I enjoy that. I'm going to finish it because I've got 200 pages to go, but a little bit disappointed by it, to be honest. It's probably another like 3-star at a push, which is a shame, really, because I generally quite like Joe Abercrombie. So sometimes they're just a miss, aren't they? Sometimes they're a miss. But that's another 4 books off my TBR. So we're now down to, I would say 52, but then I added an extra one to the stack. I've got Alchemy of Secrets, although I've been hearing some bad things about this. So I added an extra one to my stack. I don't know why I did it to myself. I'll see you in the next video. Thanks for watching.